Hi everyone, welcome to the third webinar of a series of 4 webinars conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming management case study examinations happening in November 2022. My name is Nick and I'm one of the tutors for MCS at TCS. So this is the third webinar and I will be discussing about answering technique at the same time highlighting how to manage your time. So first things first, let's look at the session outcomes. So I'll be talking about answering technique and what you need to do with regards to managing your time. And I'll be discussing the mini mock and the suggested answer. There are two tasks highlighted within your mini mock, which is already available under the free contents within our website. So based on the mini mock and the task one of the mini mock and suggested answer, I will be practically taking you through an answer plan. I'll be practically showing how to develop an answer plan so that it makes your life easier. After the session, you can refer to the answer plan because I'll be sharing the answer plan via the free content on our website after the session. So maybe tomorrow you can compare the answer plan or the answer structure which you are providing with the suggested answers to figure out how to plan out your answers. And on top of that, towards the very end of tonight's webinar, I will be highlighting about how to bounce back from failure, because there might be individuals who failed to clear the exam in August. So you need to find out what actually went wrong and adhere to remedial action. So that's exactly what I'll be highlighting at the very end of tonight's webinar. So by looking at the session outcomes, you can figure out how important today's webinar is. So before we move on with the session, let me remind you about the webinars, the schedule pertaining to MCS webinars. So we are already done with 2 webinars. I've provided the 6-week study plan and I've conducted the first part of the pre-seed analysis. And in tonight's session, as I highlighted earlier, I'll be covering answering technique. And on the 23rd of October, which is again a Sunday, I will be talking about exam prep, highlighting what you need to do before the exam, especially with regards to developing confidence. And on top of that, I'll also be highlighting about how to maintain the same level of confidence after you have developed a positive level of confidence, how to maintain the same level of confidence during the exam as well. So all these things, all these tips will be provided on the 23rd of October. And also I'll be highlighting about what the examiner has specifically asked students to adhere to. So I'll be reiterating what I've already highlighted within the past 2 webinars. I'll be highlighting certain facts within this webinar as well. So I'll be reiterating the same points based on the exact words of the examiner. Then you'd understand, what you are supposed to do at your real exam. Then looking at the 6-week study plan. So we are in week number 2. So week number 2 starts from the 9th of October to the 15th of October. 9th is today. So ideally you should start, doing work which is highlighted, or the tasks which are highlighted under week number 2. So let me remind you what you are supposed to do within this week. You are supposed to refer to theory recap slides pertaining to E2, F2, and P2. And if by any chance you missed out on watching this video, you are supposed to watch the recorded version of MCS webinar 3 answering technique. And after attending this webinar, or after watching the recorded version, you are supposed to attempt mock number 1 under simulated exam conditions. So I'll be highlighting what simulated exam conditions are later on. And within this week itself, you are supposed to develop answer plans based on suggested answers of mock 1. So within this webinar, I will be highlighting how you are supposed to develop answer plans. Then you'd know what I'm talking about. So compared to last week, this week's when it comes to I'm sorry, somebody's mic is on. Okay, sorry about that discrepancy. So I was talking about what you're supposed to do within this the second week. So compared to the previous week, you would see that the stuff which are supposed to cover within this week is relatively lesser, but things are getting a bit serious. Why? Because you are supposed to start attending mock exams now itself. So don't wait until the last 2 weeks or the last week before the exam. Then you have to face a lot of stress because you have to do all these things within 2 weeks or 1 week. Rather than doing that, it's better to stick to our study plan. It's not too late. Even if you start from Monday, it's not too late. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the answering technique. What are you supposed to do when developing answers at a CIMA case study exam? So those of you who are coming through the CIMA general route should be conversant with this methodology up to a certain extent because you have passed your OCS exam. But the students who are coming through the exemption routes, such as the FLP, the Finance Leadership Program, or the Management Gateway program, then you need to be really conversant about how to develop answers, because what I've seen is, especially when it comes to students coming through the exemption route, um, since most students come from academic backgrounds, possessing academic qualifications, they are clueless about how to face a professional qualification. So, the way in which CIMA tests your knowledge and the way in which you are supposed to provide answers are totally different to that of an academic qualification, right? So you need to understand how to apply your knowledge appropriately, because theories are tested in a practical sense. So in such a context, you have to be really conversant with an appropriate answering technique. And hopefully you guys will, after tonight's session, you guys will understand how to do it appropriately. So first things first, you are supposed to use appropriate headings and subheadings. This is extremely important. This is highlighted by the examiner, because when you use headings and subheadings, you are providing a structure to your entire answer. So as I've been telling you over and over again, the CIMA examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So in such a context, when you are, responding to your superior, you would use headings and subheadings to show some structure within the response which you are sending. So that's exactly why you need to come up with appropriate headings and subheadings. So if you're coming up with a heading or a main heading, it needs to be in bold and underlined format. And if you're coming up with a subheading, it needs to be in bold format. Okay, so please be mindful about these things. And on top of that, you need to come up with a heading per subtask. So for instance, if I show you the mini mock, according to this mini mock, there are 2 subtasks in total. So within this answer pertaining to section number 1, you need to have 2 main headings, 1 main heading per subtask. So since there are 2 subtasks, you need to have 2 main headings. And if there are 3 subtasks within a certain section, then you need to have 3 main headings. And as per your paper, as per the paper based on which I'm going to conduct the discussion tonight, there are 2 subtasks, so you need to have 2 main headings. But within the main headings, if you feel that you need to further subdivide your answer or faction out the answer, then you can come up with headings. And if that is the case, the headings need to be in bold format. Okay, then when it comes to providing answers, you are supposed to provide answers in paragraphs, which consists of 2 to 4 sentences, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so for instance, let's assume within your answer, you are trying to highlight 9 answer points. If that is the case, you need to have 9 paragraphs within your answer. If you are trying to highlight 9 answer points, then you need to have 9 paragraphs. So per answer point, you need to develop a paragraph. Why am I asking you to, come up with paragraphs when providing answers? Because that's exactly what the CIMA examiner is asking you to do. And on top of that, when you come up with a paragraph per answer point, then you are making the invigilator's life easier. So the invigilator will have a good understanding about how many points you have covered within the answer, because per answer point you are developing a paragraph. And on top of that, the invigilator can easily spot um, whether you have provided accurate information or not. Okay, so it makes the invigilator's life easier. When that happens, you are generating a positive attitude in the mind of the marker or the invigilator that is going to benefit you immensely. Because let's assume after the marks are compiled, you have gotten something like 76 marks. You need to gain 80 marks to pass the exam. So if you have generated a positive attitude in the mind of the invigilator, and if you still ended up with 76 marks, the invigilator would try to figure out how to give you the additional 4 marks. So it's good to be, or it's beneficial to be in the good books of the marker or the invigilator. So in order to do that, stick to the guidelines provided by the CIMA examiner. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. So when providing answers, you can see that main headings had been used, which are in bold and underlined format, and subheadings are used, which are in bold format, and the entire answer is divided into paragraphs. So for instance, under the first subheading, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 paragraphs. So that in itself shows that the student had come up with 5 different answer points, and it makes the examiner's life extremely easier. Let's assume there's a student who writes the same answer, but all together in one single paragraph. So there'd be so many sentences all over the place. So in such a context, the invigilator would find it extremely hard to pick and select the answer points. So let's try to make the invigilator's life easier by doing that. Let's try to gain some additional marks. Okay. And when it comes to the word limit, I'm not too concerned about the word limit because the CIMA examiner is not too concerned about the word limit. But general guideline is provided because when you are preparing for your exam, by looking at the word count of each and every answer given per task, you can figure out whether you have provided full answers or not, whether your answers are substantial enough or not. So for instance, I'm saying ideally per task, per 45-minute task, you need to have 650 to 700 words per answer. So you have your exam is divided into 4 main parts, 4 main tasks, and the time allocation per task is 45 minutes. So per task, per 45-minute task, you need to come up with an answer which carries a word count of 650 to 700 words. Okay. Why and if let's assume when you are typing your answers per 45-minute task, you just end up typing something like 300 worded answers, then that itself indicates that your answers lack depth. Okay, so that's exactly why I'm providing a word count per task. But the examiner is not going to mark you based on how many words you have written, because just let's assume there's another type of a student who sticks to this word limit, but the quality of the answer or the answer provided is not in line with the requirement of the task. So even if you provide a long answer, a lengthy answer, you're not going to get marks if you have not addressed the needs of the task. Okay, so this is not a hard and fast rule, but try to achieve this, try to keep track of what you are doing, or the length of your answers, to figure out whether you have enough depths within your answers. So when it comes to managing your time, how are you supposed to manage your 45 minutes per task? 1/3 of the time should be allocated towards reading and planning the answer, and 2/3 of your time should be allocated towards typing. So this is totally different to what most of you would do. what I've seen is throughout my CIMA career as a tutor, I've seen students, what they do is they read the question and straight away they start typing the answer. And halfway through they realize, okay, the requirement is something else. My answer is headed in the wrong direction. So they end up, deleting the entire answer and they start from scratch, start typing from scratch. So by that time, you have spent a lot of time, you have wasted a lot of time, and with that panic sets in, and it creates a lot of stress. And because in the back of your mind, for a fact that you have wasted something like 10 to 15 minutes, so you need some time to think and type. All these problems would create so many issues, and you end up failing the exam. Okay, so in order to avoid such a situation, we are suggesting that you spend some time to plan the answer, because as I highlighted on multiple occasions, the CIMA examiner is trying to replicate a real life work environment. So if you get an email from your superior, you won't start typing the response straight away. Instead, you'd spend some time to plan it out. Maybe you'd jot down some points on a notebook or within the screen itself. And after you have a proper structure, after you know what you are supposed to, what type of an answer you are supposed to provide, then you can start to flesh out the points which you have jotted down. So you are coming up with a structure. You are ensuring that you are fulfilling all the requirements which are highlighted in the task. And on top of that, when you are fulfilling all the requirements and when you have a structure, then typing becomes easy, because when it comes to typing, you need not think anymore. You have already spent some time to plan the answer. You have an answer plan at your disposal. And once you have an answer plan, typing becomes extremely easy. So when it comes to typing, don't try to think about the answer which you are providing. Instead, take the first 15 to 20 minutes to read the question properly. Then based on the tasks, develop an answer plan or an answer structure, or a summary of the entire answer which you are going to provide. And after you had spent enough time to read and plan the answer, ideally 20 minutes, where after you have spent 20 minutes to read and plan the answer, you can utilize the remaining 25 minutes to type the answer. You'd understand how to do it better when I'm explaining the answer plan. So this is what an ideal answer plan needs to look like. I'll take you through these things later on. Okay, and determine the mark allocation for each subtask based on the weightages provided. So let me take you through the question. So in the question itself, in here itself, they have given you an indication about the mark allocation. So for if you look at section number 1, it is divided into 2 main parts. And for subtask 1, the mark allocation is 60%. And for subtask B or subtask 2, the mark allocation is 40%. You can see the same thing in here within the question itself. Yeah. So for subtask A, the mark allocation is 60%, and for subtask B, the mark allocation is 40%. So these are the weightages. Based on these weightages, you can determine how many marks are allocated. So when you are developing the answer plan, you need to figure out for each and every subtask how much marks are allocated. Based on the mark allocation only, you need to stipulate how many points you are gonna depict within your answer. So you have to be really conversant or really serious about understanding the mark allocation. Again, I'll tell you how to do it later on. And you're not supposed to spend time on formatting such as paragraph alignment, because you don't get any marks for that. And the examiner asks you not to do it. And always remember, it's always about the quality of the points, not the quantity. So that's exactly why I said that the word limit of 650 to 700 words per 45-minute task is not a hard and fast rule. Instead, you need to focus on the quality of your answer. Just because you provide lengthy answers, you are not going to get marks. especially since this is a professional qualification. You have to write to the point. Just because you provide general answers, or depict general information which are taken from the pre-scene, you're not going to get marks. Instead, you have to be provide answers which are relevant to the point, relevant to the exact requirement of the task. And when developing answers, what are you supposed to do? First things first, read the scenario. Okay, so without reading the scenario, you can't figure out what you are supposed to cover within your answer. So read the scenario first, try to understand the exact requirement. That's exactly why I said you need to spend some time to plan the answer. So the first step towards planning the answer is reading the scenario appropriately and understanding the exact requirement. Then after you understand the exact requirement, you are supposed to plot the requirement into headings and subheadings. So I said, if the main task is divided into two subtasks, then you need to have two main headings, and under each heading, if you feel like you need to further subdivide your answer, then you can come up with subheadings. And invest time to understand the requirement clearly. Why? Because if you do not understand the requirement clearly, you will be providing a totally different answer, or you will be providing an answer which is totally different to the requirement. So for instance, um, um, let's assume the examiner is asking about how to implement activity-based costing. This is not part and parcel of MCS. For instance, I can't remember any other example. So let's assume the examiner wants to test your understanding about activity-based costing. So the question is about how to implement activity-based costing within the company. So a student, whenever they see the term activity-based costing, what they do is they'd start explaining what activity-based costing is, and they end up providing the advantages and disadvantages of activity-based costing instead of highlighting how to implement an activity-based costing system within the company. So when the question is asking you to suggest how to implement an activity-based costing system, and when a student ends up highlighting the advantages and disadvantages of activity-based costing, you're not going to get any marks. Okay, you might get 2 marks for the explanation provided pertaining to, or the definition provided pertaining to activity-based costing, but for the entire answer, you won't get any marks. So that's exactly why you need to invest time to understand the requirements clearly. That's exactly why you are not supposed to start typing the answer straight away after reading the question. Instead, spend some time to understand the exact requirement and plan the answer first before you start typing the fully fledged answer. So a maximum of 1/3 of the time can be taken. So you can take something like 2 to 3 minutes to read the question, 2 minutes to understand the exact requirement. Then the remaining 15 minutes can be allocated towards answer planning. Then you have 25 minutes at your disposal. You have 25 minutes at your disposal to type the answer. So when it comes to planning the answer, plan it on the answer screen itself, not on the scratch pad. So those who are conversant with the CIMA case studies would know what a scratch pad is about. But those who are coming through the exemption route need to know that you will be provided with a scratch pad as part of the examination platform provided by Pearson. And you'd gain access to the same type of a platform, scratch pad within our own exam, TCS's exam platform as well. So although there's a scratch pad, don't plan your answer within the scratch pad. Why? Because you can't copy and paste anything. You can't copy stuff from the scratch pad and paste it on your answering screen. So if you come up with an answer plan on the scratch pad, then when it comes to typing, you would have to shift between screens, and when you are doing it, there's a tendency for students to miss out on certain points. So why should you miss out on points and end up losing marks when you can develop the entire answer plan within the answer screen itself? Then you need not shift between screens. Okay, there's no inefficiency. You're not at risk of losing out marks by losing out points. So in such a context, it's better to plan the answer within the answer screen itself. And once you have an answer plan, and when it comes to the time to type, then you have to flesh out your answer plan or expand the points which are highlighted within the answer plan. So by doing that, you are not missing out on any points. You are saving a lot of time. You are spending enough time to plan your answers, and you will be providing high quality answers. And then it's extremely easy to pass the MCS exam, especially because there's a lot of practicality. When you are providing answers, you need to be practical at the MCS level, since you are playing the role of a finance manager. So in such a context, it's better to spend some time to plan your answers, try to figure out whether your answers make sense, whether they are practically applicable to the scenario highlighted, whether what you're suggesting is actually practically applicable to your company, to your own company. And once you do that, you end up getting good marks at the real exam. All right, so having said that, let's try to figure out how all these things can be achieved when developing an answer plan. So I'm going to practically show how to do it within this session. So as I highlighted earlier, I'll only be discussing the answer pertaining to the question and the answer pertaining to section number 1. It's a 45-minute question. Usually within an exam standard mock or a 3 full hour paper, you would have 4 sections. But since this is a mini mock, we have only provided 2 sections for your benefit. And the number of subtasks are 2 subtasks each. And the weightages give you an indication about the mark allocation. Right. So section number 1, a 45-minute question. Today is the 14th of November 2022, and your immediate supervisor, the SFM or the senior finance manager, Young Mei Quinn, is forwarding you an email which he has received from Jamil. Okay. And the subject of the email is about new range of toys. So this gives us an indication about the content of the entire question. It's about introducing a new range of toys. So let's try to figure out what all this information is about. So this guy is asking, our senior finance manager is saying we are supposed to go through 2 attachments provided within this email. At your real exam, usually you won't get 2 attachments, but sometimes we've seen it, because if information cannot be provided within 1 single attachment, then they'd opt for 2 different attachments. So you need to go through these attachments. And in one of the emails which was received from Jamil, he's providing his views on the new range of products we are considering bringing into our retail product portfolio. And the other, an extract from the first draft business case prepared by one of the managers and his team under him. So you are supposed to go through 2 attachments in one. It gives us an indication about a new range of products which we are going to add to our product portfolio. And in the other, there is a draft business case. Okay. And yes, based on that, you are supposed to identify and explain the main business risks associated with the possible addition of each new toy variant to our retail product portfolio. So what's the first part, first task about? It's about identifying and explain the main business risks associated with the additions which we are going to talk about. And on top of that, you are supposed to include your thoughts on how we can overcome them. So as I highlighted earlier, understanding the exact requirement is of utmost importance, because this subtask consists of 2 areas. Area number 1 is about identifying and explaining the main business risks. And if you just do that, you won't get full marks. Instead, you have to also talk about how each of these business risks which you are highlighting can be mitigated or overcome. Okay, so this subtask has 2 main areas. So before we look at how to develop an answer plan, let's try to figure out what the type of information provided within the reference material. So Jamil has sent an email to Young Mei, your senior finance manager, I got some interesting new product proposals, which we have received from two toy manufacturers. So two toy manufacturers has approached us. Both products are toy variants associated with two different TV cartoon programs: Old Age Mutant Samurai Frogs and The Adventures of Laura the Explorer. Okay. And they have the demand or the popularity of these two TV shows had grown within Vestaria. So what you need to understand from this information is, as per the information provided within your pre-scene, usually there is an extensive level of demand for products or toys which are based on TV shows or films or popular books. Okay, so that's exactly what you can see here. There are two TV shows which are popular. So based on that, we are trying to manufacture, based on that, we are trying to sell toys. Always remember that we are not a manufacturer of toys. Instead, we are into retail selling of toys. We believe that it would be a great time and opportunity to sell some recreational toys to capitalize on this trend as soon as possible. I have attached for your reference an extract from some of the key points taken from the first draft business case. I need your help in outlining the risks and mitigation strategies associated with it, and would be great if you could rope in our finance manager. So Jamil is actually asking for your opinion about this. So let's try to get to the nitty-gritties of things. So information pertaining to Old Age Mutant Samurai Frogs, the TV show. The program has been around for nearly an year and was on the verge of being cut from the air. Yes. So this TV program or the cartoon had been aired for some time, for about an year, but it was supposed to be taken off air. But all of a sudden, it has gained unexpected momentum in Vestaria in the last quarter due to a similar looking generic frog toys gaining popularity. So this TV show was about to be shut down after running for an year, but all of a sudden, the demand for a generic set of frog toys had increased significantly, which had resulted in driving the demand for these for this TV show. Okay, so this is the toy, the generic type of toy which had been there, which has no connection to the TV show, but the demand for these toys had increased, and because of that, the demand for the TV show had increased as well. Okay, and similar looking generic frog toys, which translated into a rebirth of sorts for the program. This was initiated by a small-scale online toy manufacturer called blissfultoys.com. So blissfultoys.com, a small-scale online toy manufacturer or toy manufacturer which sells its products online, had come up with this generic product range, and it had become popular. Because of its popularity, kids had started watching this cartoon series again. So the demand for this cartoon has increased rapidly within Vestaria. The program has begun to increase its on-air presence across Vestaria with various cable networks as it tries to gain more and more new viewers, in addition to sustaining the newfound surge in demand for long as possible, as long as possible. Yes, so all of a sudden the demand for the TV show had increased because of this generic set of frog toys, and the TV producers are trying to exploit this situation by trying to get in touch with cable networks or TV stations and keep it running, keep the show running, which was about to end, to keep the show running as long as possible. The plan is first to introduce a few generic action figures and plush toys to test the waters for a few months. So we are planning to introduce a few generic action figures and plush toys which are based on this TV series, not generic products, but plush toys and action figures which are based on this TV series for a few months to test the water to figure out whether it's going to be in demand or not. And then later on, looking at securing a licensing deal if we continue to see continued growth in popularity of the program. So first things first, we are going to sell similar products which are sold by Blissful Toys. We are going to introduce some plush toys and generic action figures, test the market for some time, and if the demand is still there or if the demand is increasing, then we are going to pursue a licensing agreement. So in such a context, we will have the sole right of selling these toys which are related to the real TV series or the cartoon series. Okay, so that's the information about the first product. Then Adventures of Laura the Explorer, the second product. This is a local kids TV program, and the show is largely watched by kids coming from the upper middle class families in urban cities. So most of the upper middle class people, they have enough money with them, disposable income. So by reading this sentence, I'm reminded about the price elasticity. So these guys will not think too much about spending money on a toy based on a cartoon character. The production company is looking at rolling out a handheld gaming device. So what type of a toy? They are not actually going to sell a toy. Instead, they are going to sell a handheld gaming device that will enable children to embark on their own exploration adventures with Laura via complementary gaming cartridges. So the gaming device comes with gaming cartridges as well. The plan is to initially combine one gaming cartridge with the product and then sell newer game versions later on based on the popularity. So the plan is to sell one cartridge with the gaming device, and if the demand picks up, we are going to introduce some more versions, thereby selling some more cartridges later on. Key points to note: the manufacturer wants us to enter into an exclusive retail contract whereby Happy Playz will be the only retailer for the product in West Area. So we are going to go for a sole retail agreement, which is going to be extremely beneficial for us if the product remains, the demand for the product remains high within the market, because we are, as a company, we are the only company which is going to benefit from this deal. This contract also involves a substantial down payment for the retail rights and minimum order quantities applied to the video games, as well as for the new cartridges to be developed by the manufacturer in the next 3 years. Now, this is problematic because we have to do a substantial down payment. We have to commit ourselves towards a substantial down payment, which is gonna, affect us, affect our working capital, because we have to all of a sudden spend, a lot of money or make a substantial down payment to be in line with this license agreement. And on top of that, there are minimum order quantities applicable as well. So there are, when there are minimum order quantities, whenever we are purchasing our toys on a continuous basis, even if the toys are not selling, we have to keep on purchasing them. So that's again a working capital related issue which we are faced with. Furthermore, according to our logistics department, we are facing a small issue regarding storage capacity for electronic products at our warehouse, which has turned out to be a bit of a bottleneck. And because of that, and on top of that, they have given information as to why our warehouse is full. We have a fully loaded warehouse for the upcoming fourth quarter. So within the pre-scene, they have highlighted that 50% of sales happen within the fourth quarter. So in order to fulfill this demand, we have to stack up. That's why we run our own warehouse. So our warehouses are full, and we are not in a position to stack up these, handheld devices pertaining to this TV program or the cartoon. And the alternative is to rent out a third-party warehouse that is occasionally used by our competitor Gleetil as well, as per our sources. So the other option is to stack up these products within Gleetil's warehouse. Again, that exposes us to certain problems. Why? Because it's better to keep all this information confidential, because if Gleetil gets to know about it, they'll try to get in touch with the toy manufacturer, and come up with their own deal. So in order to do that, it's better to keep all these toys within our warehouse itself. But since the warehouse is full, we have no other option but to stack it up within a warehouse which we will be sharing with our closest competitor. It could be disastrous for us in the future. So let's look at, so these are the information provided. And what is your requirement? First things first, identify and explain the main business risks which are highlighted associated with the possible addition of each new toy variant. And on top of that, for each business risk, you are supposed to highlight how to overcome them. Okay, so let's develop an answer plan. Okay, so as I highlighted earlier, the first step is towards understanding the first step is with regards to understanding the mark allocation based on the weightages provided. So for highlighting risks and mitigatory action, you are allocated with 60%. So the total mark allocation per 45-minute task is 37.5 marks. Total mark allocation per 45-minute 45-minute task is 37.5 marks. So 60% of it is 22.5 marks. So for the first subtask, you will be allocated 22.5 marks. So usually per answer point, the mark allocation is something like 2 to 3 marks. So if you are to gain 22.5 marks, you need to have at least 10 or 11 relevant answer points. So within your answer plan, you need to have 10 or 11 answer points. If that is the case, then you are in a position to achieve 22.5 marks. So let's look at you know, so that's the mark allocation. I'm just going to talk about the first part for now. Then looking at the answer plan, as I highlighted earlier, the total time allocation is per task on a per task basis 45 minutes, and 20 minutes of your 45 minutes should be allocated towards reading the question and planning the answer, and the remaining 25 minutes should be allocated towards typing the answer. Right. So I've come up with a main heading, and as I highlighted earlier, a main heading needs to be bold and underlined format. That's exactly what you can see here: business risks and mitigation. Okay, and the mark allocation is 22.5 marks. You need not stipulate this in your answer. I've just highlighted it so that you are reminded about how many marks are allocated for this task. So I've come up with a subheading for the first type of toy which we are going to sell. The product category or the name of the toy is Old Age Mutant Samurai Frogs. Okay, so that's a subheading which I've used, and it's in bold format. Why have I used a subheading? Because we have to also talk about the adventures of Laura the Explorer, the second type of toy. So that's exactly why I've come up with a subheading. Then the question is asking us to highlight the risks and mitigatory action. So rather than always referring back to the question, what I've done is I've simply stipulated the requirement in a simple and understandable manner: risks and mitigation. So you are constantly reminded whenever you are providing the answer or developing the answer plan, you are constantly reminded in simpler terms about what you are supposed to achieve. You are supposed to highlight the risks and mitigatory action. So what are the risks faced with regards to the first type of product? We are exposed to product risk because the demand for the product could be falling in the future. Okay, so you know, the TV show had been running for the past year. The demand had been dropping, so because of that, it was supposed to be taken off air. All of a sudden, the demand had increased, not because the TV show was good, but because some generic toy became, you know, in demand, which you know, vicariously drove demand for the TV show. So there is a product risk with regards to demand for the product falling. So will demand sustain? Okay, why are we you know, thinking whether the demand will sustain or not? Because the program was about to be taken off air, and the demand increased due to a small scale online retailer. Okay, so as you can see, the answer which I'm providing, I'm saying that there's a product risk because of the falling demand for the product, okay, or the TV series, but I'm explaining it or justifying my point as well. You need to always justify your points. You can't simply say there's a product risk and the demand is falling that had led to the product risk. That should not be your answer. Instead, you have to justify, you have to provide an appropriate justification. And the justification is the program was about to be taken off air and the demand increased due to a small scale online retailer, not because of the TV series. So in such a context, we are not too sure about whether the demand is going to sustain in the future. Okay, so how can we get rid of this product risk? Mitigate a reaction, further research before launch to justify demand. We are supposed to conduct further research before launching this product. Because we have suggested that first things first, we are going to come up with action toys and plush toys, which is gonna be introduced to the market as a general, a general set of frog-based action toys and plush toys. It has nothing to do with the TV program. So we are going to test the market, and if it's in demand, if the TV program is in demand, then we are going to go for a licensing agreement. So before even before, so the licensing agreement comes later. So even before we start producing the generic products, we have to do further research. That's how we can get rid of this product risk. And it's better when conducting this research, it's better to understand the USP of blissfultoys.com. So what is Blissful Toys? The toy manufacturer which has started producing the generic products. It's highlighted in here, Blissful Toys. Okay, so you have to always relate to the question at hand. So when conducting the research, let's try to understand the unique selling point of Blissful Toys. It's better to understand what actually drove the demand for these generic products. Okay, then after understanding it, we can also try to imitate this USP or try to further broaden this unique selling point. Okay, so that's the first type of risk which we are faced with, and I've come up with mitigatory action for it to find a solution. So the second type of risk is with regards to reputational risk. The product is an imitation of the original characters. So Blissful Toys, the small online toy manufacturer, these guys have started producing these toys which are imitations of the original characters. They have started producing a generic product line. So will we face legal action? If so, it leads to reputational damage. And on top of that, if we start producing this generic set of toys and halfway through we are faced with legal action, we have to stop doing or stop selling our products. In such a context, it leads to a waste of management time and organizational resources. So how can we mitigate this risk? We have to explore licensing, right now, rather than going for a generic set of products. Because if we sell a generic set of products and if these guys sue us, if the TV producers are going to sue us, then there's so much of problems we'd be faced with. We'd be faced with reputational damage, waste of management time and organizational resources. So in order to avoid such a situation, it's better to explore licensing when we start selling these products. So first things first, do your research. After doing your research, if you figure out that the demand is going to sustain, then go for a licensing agreement. Then we will be avoiding any reputational risks pertaining to legal action. So as you can see, I've provided an extremely practical answer. And on top of that, I've kept all bullet points simple as much as possible, rather than providing, when developing the answer plan, rather than providing full sentences, I've kept it simple as much as possible. Why? You're not typing the entire answer here, the fully fledged answer. Instead, you have just 15 minutes to plan the entire answer pertaining to the entire task. So keep it simple, just like this. So I've said reputational risk, product is an imitation of the original characters. Are we faced with legal action? Without saying that, I've simply said legal action. If so, reputational damage. But when you start typing the answer, you need to flesh it out so that you come up with separate paragraphs. And when typing, you can simply explain your point when you know what you are supposed to cover. So that's exactly why I said, rather than reading the question and typing the answer straight away, come up with a plan such as this. Then you'd know whether you have fulfilled the requirements. So let's go back to the requirement. Requirement is about highlighting the risks and mitigatory action. We have achieved it for the first type of products. Okay, we have highlighted 2 different risks, and for each risk you have provided mitigatory action as well. So let's move on to the second type of toy, the adventures of Laura the Explorer. We are exposed to financial risks. So will costs outweigh returns? Okay, what are the financial risks which we are exposed to? We have to do, we have to make a substantial down payment. Okay, so this down payment might kill us in the long run, because if we cannot recover this, the cash which we are spending, if we cannot recover it fast, then our cash flows will be affected negatively, our working capital will be affected negatively. So in the short term, when we cannot manage our cash flows appropriately, it is going to affect us in the long term in a negative manner, and ultimately we might end up bankrupt as a company because of this contract which we are going to sign. So that's the first financial risk. There's a substantial down payment, and there are minimum order quantities as well. So irrespective of how fast we sell our products, even if the product is not selling, we'd have to keep on purchasing the same quantity on a continuous basis. So in such a context, we will end up with slow moving stocks, again exposing us towards working capital issues or short-term financing issues. So how to mitigate this? We have to conduct an investment appraisal to figure out whether the costs which we are spending are going to outweigh the returns, or the returns are going to outweigh the costs. If the returns are higher, then it would result in a positive NPV, net present value. Then in such a context, we have to go ahead with it. Then again, as part of investment appraisal, you can go for discounted payback. Try and figure out how long you're gonna take to recover your initial investment. So these things, IRR and all these investment appraisal techniques can be utilized to figure out whether it's gonna make financial sense before taking on this financial risk. So again, I've highlighted the risk and highlighted mitigatory action. Then the second type of risk is with regards to operational risk. Because we are supposed to use a third-party warehouse to stack up a licensed product. As you know, as per the information provided within the pre-scene, licensed products are extremely it provides us with extreme levels of margins. Why? Because licensed products are not sold by all retailers. Licensed products are sold by a set of retailers only. So if we have a license for this product, Gleetil, our competitor, cannot sell that product. Okay, so in such a context, although that is the case, we are gonna stack up our licensed products within a warehouse which will be shared with Gleetil, which could lead to a loss of confidentiality, because it's better to keep information pertaining to our licensed products confidential, or else we lose the competitive edge if our competitor gets to know about it. Because if the competitor gets to know about it, the competitor might introduce a general product, not the same product, but a general or a generic product, because as per the information provided in the pre-scene, there's a lot of imitation happening within the industry. You can't come up with a licensed product and keep the demand high for a long period of time, because the competitors are going to come up with imitations and eat up your margins, eat up your market share. So in such a context, it's extremely stupid for us to stack up our licensed products within a warehouse which we are going to share with Gleetil. And these products comes with sensitive release dates. Again, this is highlighted in the pre-scene. We have to be really conversant about the release dates, because the release dates of these toys usually coincide with release dates of special episodes and whatnot. Okay, so we have to be really conversant about these things. And how can we overcome or mitigate these operational risks? When it comes to traditional toys, it's better to use the third-party warehouse, third-party warehouse, which we are going to share with Gleetle. But when it comes to licensed products, it's better to use our own warehouse. So how can we do this? So according to what is highlighted in the question, it is stipulated that our warehouse is already full because we have stacked up for the fourth quarter. So rather than, stacking up our licensed products within the, rented out warehouse, what we can do is we can, shift the traditional toys which are already there within our warehouse to the rented out warehouse. And after we have enough space, we can stack up our licensed products within our own warehouse. So that's the prudent step to take. Yes, we are out of space. So how can we create space? Shift traditional toys to the rented out warehouse so that there's no risk of gleating, using the same warehouse, because traditional toys, they are conversant with the range of traditional toys which we are selling. So they are not going to gain any competitive advantage by understanding what type of traditional toys which we are selling, because they already possess that information. So by doing this activity, we are clearing out our existing warehouse, our own warehouse, and licensed products can be stored there, thereby avoiding this operational risk. So, when I'm explaining it, it goes on and on, but the entire answer, I've kept it extremely simple by, putting it in a concise manner. So that's because when you are planning the answer, you don't have too much time to type. So keep it simple as much as possible, because the main thing which you're trying to achieve is with regards to coming up with an appropriate structure. After coming up with the structure, you are supposed to go back and figure out whether you have addressed the needs of the task. Needs are with regards to risks and mitigatory action. That's exactly what you had done for the second part of the question, or with regards to the products pertaining to Adventures of Laura the Explorer. Okay. So sorry, so that's that. And let's move on to the second part of the question. So in the second part of the question, I'm gonna go through it real fast because we are running out of time. Secondly, you are supposed to recommend a suitable retail pricing strategy for each of the two new products with appropriate justifications to your conclusion. So again, the second subtask consists of two areas. Area number one is about recommending a suitable retail pricing strategy. You can't simply recommend pricing strategies for the two product categories. Instead, you are supposed to justify your answers as well, because if you do not provide the justification, you won't get full marks. So let's look at what type of an answer you are supposed to provide. So I've come up with the main heading: pricing strategies, in bold and underlined format. And for each product, I've come up with a subheading, which is in bold format. So recommendation for Old Age Mutant Samurai Frog, we have to pursue penetrative pricing. So why are we supposed to pursue penetrative pricing? You have to elaborate your point, or you need to justify as to why you are suggesting this pricing strategy. First things first, I'm going to highlight or define what a penetrative or penetration pricing strategy is about. It's about setting low prices initially to capture market share, then gradually increasing it when the demand for our products increases. And this type of a strategy coincides with the strategy of the TV program, because the TV program, it was going to go off air. All of a sudden, because of a generic toy which was introduced, the demand has increased. With that, according to the information highlighted within the question, the TV producers have started approaching TV networks or channels, TV channels, with the aim of further expanding the lengths of their TV series, and on top of that, getting it across to as much customers as possible within West area. So they are also trying to penetrate into markets. So in such a context, if we are to go ahead with selling these products, we have to go with a penetrative pricing strategy. And first things first, in order to test the market, we are going to come up with, we are going to introduce generic toys and generic toys are cheaper. Why? Because you don't have to go for any license agreement and on top of that, these generic products are produced in bulk. Because of that, it leads to economies of scale advantages. So the production costs are extremely low when you look at generic products, and because of that, we can pass down these benefits, pass down these cost advantages via reduced prices to our customers, thereby pursuing a penetrative pricing strategy. So the justification is, if we pursue this pricing strategy, we can reach a wider audience. Why? When it's cheap, anybody would start purchasing our products, so we can reach a wider audience, and it's a less risky strategy, especially due to the uncertainty in demand. So there's a huge uncertainty in demand. So in such a context, if we end up purchasing a product from manufacturers which are manufactured at the lowest cost, we are spending a lesser amount of money when purchasing these stocks, or purchasing the stocks of these toys. And on top of that, since the price is low, it's easier for us to push it to customers. Okay, so that's a less risky strategy. And low price creates a natural barrier for small competitors, because small competitors will not be able to compete with us because we are charging a low price. Okay, so that's the answer for old age mutant samurai frogs, the pricing strategy pertaining to this product category. Then looking at the second product category, advantages of Laura the Explorer, recommendation is to pursue a loss leader pricing strategy. So I've highlighted what, or defined what a loss leader pricing strategy is about. It's a scenario where we we utilize two pricing strategies when there is a main component and a sub component. And what's our main component? The video game. So usually the main component is sold at a low price or even at a loss. Okay, so that's part and parcel of a loss leader pricing strategy. And subcomponents such as cartridges are sold at an extremely high price, thereby gaining a high margin, and you might be covering up your losses you are exposed to by selling your main components at an extremely low price. So what's the justification which we are providing? Low price is charged to maintain low prices to the main device enables penetration. So low prices, when we are charging low prices to sell the devices, it's easy to penetrate the market. People would start purchasing these devices without thinking too much about it. You can see the same type of pricing strategy when it comes to printers. The printer is extremely cheap, but the cartridges are extremely expensive. So people won't think twice before investing their money on a printer because it's extremely cheap. But the printer manufacturers end up generating a lot of profits by selling the cartridges at an extremely high price. That's exactly what our company can do as well. Higher prices to the cartridges enable profit generation, and the demand is driven by the upper middle class, and these individuals will be less price sensitive, especially when it comes to purchasing cartridges, because as per the information provided in the question, if this product is going to be successful, we will be introducing different versions of the game, thereby trying to sell more and more cartridges to the market. So if we go for loss leader pricing strategy, we are anyway selling the device, then we can keep churning out cartridges, thereby making a lot of profits as a company. So that's the answer plan. And after you have come up with an answer plan, you have ideally spent 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes to read the question and come up with an answer plan. And after coming up with the answer plan, again, it's best practice to go back to the requirement and figure out whether you have highlighted the appropriate information. So for the second part, you were supposed to highlight the pricing strategies. That's exactly what you have highlighted within your answer plan. So everything's good. The plan looks good. Then it comes to typing. So when it comes to typing, just expand each and every point which you have made. And when expanding, provide your answers in paragraphs. So that's exactly what's done here. So I would invite you guys to do the same thing, tomorrow. Go through the suggested answer, which is uploaded under free content. Go through the suggested answer and compare the suggested answer to the answer plan which I've provided. So you are in a position to figure out how to expand these answer points, because we'll be wasting a lot of time if I try to type the answer based on the answer plan. Instead, I've explained it. So please go through the suggested answer of the mini mock to figure out how to expand all these points which I've highlighted. Okay, so that's the discussion of the mini mock. Any questions, guys? Any questions before we move forward? I hope you guys understood what this answering technique is about. I need to remind you that you can't, just because you watch this webinar, you won't end up coming up with appropriate answering techniques at your exam. Instead, you have to practice it. That's exactly why we are suggesting you to attempt 5 full exam standard mock exams, 3-hour mock exams. When you are attempting these mock exams, each mock exam carries 4 tasks, so 20 tasks in total. So you would be developing 20 answer plans. You will be typing 20 answers. So in such a context, you are getting enough practice. And once you have practiced before the exam, developing answer plans at your real exam becomes extremely easy. Then you'd be managing your time appropriately. When you manage your time, you will be providing complete answers. And if you provide complete answers, your chances of passing the exam is extremely high. I'm not the person who's saying it. The examiner is telling it. Okay. And on top of that, you are spending some time to think. You are going back to the requirement to figure out whether you have addressed the needs of the task. So you are providing high quality answers. You are not wasting any time. And where you are not thinking when you are typing. All these things are best practice when it comes to passing the exam comfortably. So before we move forward, any questions, guys? If you have any questions, please raise them now. You can simply switch on the mic and talk. Type your question in the chat section. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, since there aren't any questions, I'm going to move forward with the content of this session of this webinar. So as I said in the last part of tonight's webinar, I'll be talking about how to bounce back from failure. If you had failed the exam, MCS exam previously, it's going to be extremely beneficial for you. So first things first, you need to figure out whether you gave your best shot last time. You need to conduct your own personal reflection, and you have to be honest to yourself, because mostly I know for a fact that most students end up preparing for the exam just 2 weeks before. And if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, you can't pass the exam, because this is a highly competitive examination. This is a highly practical examination. Just because you know your OTQs, if you do not know how to apply them in your answers, you won't pass the exam. If you don't manage your time appropriately, or if you do not plan your answers or use a stipulated answer planning technique, you're not going to pass. So you need to think about what actually went wrong. I'll be talking about common reasons for failure. So try to relate it to yourself and figure out where you went wrong. So where did you go wrong in the exam? You need to diagnose the reasons first and address them this time. You can't keep, as I highlighted earlier, you can't keep doing the same mistakes, committing the same mistakes over and over again. You have to refer to the mini mock and suggested answers, as well as the examiner's report, to figure out what the common reasons for failure are, or else you can simply listen to what I'm going to talk in the next 2 or 3 minutes. And did you get feedback on your mock exam answer scripts? If not, it's better to opt for it this time. Why am I suggesting it? Because you need some type of support, especially if you are coming through the exemption route. So if you are coming through the exemption route, such as the management gateway route or the FLP or the finance leadership program, you might be doing a CIMA case study for the first time in your life. So you might be really clueless about what type of answers you are supposed to provide. Just because you practice mocks on your own, not every student would carry the capability to figure out whether their answers are up to standard or not. Because if you are comfortable with 100% self-learning, then that's totally fine. Then you are in a position to go through the suggested answers of the mocks and compare that to your own answer which you have provided and figure out the shortcomings. So if you can do it, then that's superb. Okay, then you need not opt for personalized tutor feedback. But if you failed last time, especially if you got marks lesser than 65, then try to go for feedback this time, because you would need all the help. And let me show you the type of feedback which we provide at TCS. So as you can see, for each and every paragraph or sentence, we have provided extensive feedback throughout the answer script. And at the very end, we provide mark breakdowns as well based on the mark allocations. So for each and every subtask, you can figure out how much marks were allocated and how many you gained. By looking at it, you can figure out where you stand and how far you need to improve your answer. And at the very end, we'll be stipulating whether you had passed the mock exam or failed the mock exam. And we will be providing some general comments as well. Okay, so you might need this type of in-depth tutor feedback to, if you want to significantly improve your answers and the quality of your answers. And you have to, based on these things, based on what was diagnosed, you have to come up with an action plan, which should be to work harder and smarter than the previous attempt. So if you stick to our 6-week study plan, you will be working smarter. Okay, all the type of activities you are supposed to conduct, we have highlighted them. There's a lot to be done, but if you work in a smart manner, you can get everything done. So for instance, when attempting a mock exam, you can attempt it on a Tuesday. Wednesday, go through the suggested answer, and based on the suggested answer, you are supposed to develop a summary or an answer plan. So I highlighted how to develop an answer plan when planning your answers. So you can simply, what you can do is go after you are done with the mock, go through the suggested answer. Based on the suggested answer, develop something like this. So you have an answer plan at your disposal. You have the answer in a summarized and concise manner, and you can easily understand the structure of the answer as well. So this is the answer. Okay, you can see so many paragraphs in here, but in one single page the entire answer is there for you. So if when you develop something like this, it's easier for you to figure out whether you have covered all these points in your mock exam. Okay, so on a Tuesday you attempt the mock, on Wednesday develop an answer plan like this. By Thursday, if you opt for tutor feedback, within 48 hours you would be getting feedback. So by Thursday you would have tutor feedback. Then if you go for, we are selling something called a plus package, which I'm going to talk about later. If you go for a plus package, you would have access to the answer explanation, a video pertaining to the answer explanation. I'll be conducting the explanations just like what I did tonight. Just like I explained the answer, I'll be doing answer explanations for mocks 3, 4, and 5. So by Thursday, you are done with everything. You have attempted the mock, gotten feedback, developed your answer plan based on the suggested answer, watched the video tutorial as well, and you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to further improve yourself. If you figure out that your answer planning technique is not up to standard, work on it during Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you feel that your typing speed is not up to standard, then work on it. Okay, if you feel that you are planning the answer appropriately, but you are finding it hard to flesh out your answer, then work on it during Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you feel that your technical knowledge is lacking pertaining to E2, P2, F2, then you can revise these areas during the weekend. So that's about working smart. Okay, so in order to do that, just stick to our study plan. So what are the common reasons for failure? So most students fail because they practice just 2 or 3 mocks. You can't cover the entire syllabus when you practice 2 or 3 mocks. So if you're planning to do the same mistake this time, might as well prepare yourself for the sitting in February rather than spending your money unnecessarily. Okay, so you cannot pass by doing just 2 or 3 mocks. If you are a brilliant student, if you had aced your OTQ exams, then there's a slight chance of you passing the exam even if you do 2 or 3 mocks. But the recommended course of action is do at least 5 exam standard mock exams. And when I'm talking about exam standard mock exams, I'm talking about full 3-hour papers, not questions which consists of 2 or 3 subtasks, or attempting questions on a subtask by subtask basis. That's not the way to do it, because at the exam you have to sit in one place for 3 hours, attempt the entire paper, which consists of 4 main tasks. So you need to get accustomed to real exam conditions. So when attempting mock exams, just doing bits and attempting bits and pieces won't help you. You need to practice 5 exam standard full mock exams. Just practicing 2 or 3 mocks is the most common reason for failure, and not practicing full 3-hour mocks under simulated exam conditions. So you need to sit in one place, isolate yourself. There can't be any disturbances. Keep the phone away, sit in one place and attempt. If you are attempting a mock exam, attempt it at a stretch, allocating 3 hours. Okay, and your life becomes easy if you attempt these mocks within our exam platform, because we have developed an exam platform which is akin to the Pearson VUE system. So there's a timer, and you have access to the reference material and the pre-seen material, as well as a scratch pad. So you will get accustomed to real life exam conditions, and you need not time when you're typing your answers or planning your answers. You need not keep a separate timer. You can see a timer on the exam platform itself, so it makes your life easier. So and on top of that, you can practice all 5 mock exams within our exam platform. Okay, and so you can overcome this issue by practicing mocks under real exam conditions. Lack of technical knowledge is a main concern, especially when we look at students coming through the exemption routes, such as the management gateway route or the FLP route. So if you do not know E2, F2, and P2, you can't provide answers. So for instance, this according to the information, according to the question which we discussed tonight, you are supposed to highlight different types of risks and mitigatory action. So if you do not know the risk, you can't come up with mitigatory action. If you do not understand what reputational risk is, then you can't stipulate how to overcome this reputational risk. When talking about pricing strategies, if you do not know what penetrative pricing is about, then you'd be clueless about what type of answers you are supposed to provide. If you do not know what loss leader pricing is about, if you do not know as part of loss leader pricing, you need to have a main component and a sub component, you won't end up recommending it. Okay, so you need to know your or polish up your knowledge pertaining to E2, P2, and F2. And shortcomings in application of knowledge, for example, suggesting KPIs. So there could be shortcomings when applying knowledge. You might be really conversant with E2, F2, P2 related areas, but when it comes to applying that knowledge, you face with something called brain freeze. Okay, so that is another problem faced by many students, especially students who are coming through the exemption route. And inappropriate answering technique. Most students, 99% of the students, read the question and start typing the answer straight away. You're not headed in the correct direction. You're headed towards failure. And this leads to mismanagement of time as well, because when you do not have an appropriate answering technique, you are clueless about how long you're taking for each and every task. Okay, so let's assume that you took too much time in task number 1 and ended up providing an incomplete answer, that stress is gonna be there when you are um, uh, attempting tasks 2, 3, and 4, and it's highly likely that you'd end up giving incomplete answers for tasks 2, 3, and 4 as well. Okay, so that's a killer. Mismanagement of time and lack of evaluation. Okay, so when you are evaluating your answers, I said after attempting a mock exam, try to compare it to a suggested answer. So rather than trying to compare it to a suggested answer directly, I'm suggesting that you develop an answer plan or an answer summary based on the suggested answer. Then your life becomes easier. So rather than going through a document like this is a suggested answer, typical suggested answer you'd get your hands on. So rather than going through this document, when you have something like this, it's easier for you to figure out whether you have highlighted these points within your answer. If not, next time when you are attempting the same mock, you have to make sure that you cover all these points. So, lack of evaluation. In order to overcome this problem, you have to compare your answer to the suggested answer. So rather than, looking at the entire suggested answer, compare your answer to the answer plan based on the suggested answer. Then your life becomes easier. And on top of that, within the last week, as per the study plan which we are providing within this last week, which is not the week, actually just 2 or 3 days before the exam, from the 13th to the exam date, you are supposed to refer to the answer plans of all 5 mocks. So rather than going through questions and suggested pages and pages of questions and suggested answers pertaining to 5 mocks, you would have a summary at your disposal, something like your a 5-page document. So going through this 5-page, by going through this 5-page document, you are revising the questions highlighted in the requirements, you are revising theoretical content, and on top of that, you are revising how to apply this theoretical knowledge in a practical sense. So your life becomes easier closer to the exam. You won't panic. So that's exactly what we've highlighted in here. So it's better to adhere to a study plan. Again, we have made your life easier. Rather than asking you guys to come up with your own study plan, we have provided a tried and tested study plan. That's exactly why our students, if you're more, if you stick to our study plan and use our resources appropriately, getting 100 marks out of 150 is extremely easy. Go to our testimonial page within our website, then you'd know what I'm talking about. OCS results which were released last week, these guys, there were 3 students who actually went for tutor feedback, one-to-one mentoring. They were always in touch with us. They were always asking us questions. They were asking for our guidance. They completed their mocks on time. Because of that, they got feedback on time, and because of that, these guys ended up getting, one individual got 101, the other got 103, and the third student got 105. So these, so many students purchased our packages, but these 3 individual students were the only people who stuck to our study plan appropriately. So if you do it, you can get extremely good marks. Okay, any questions, folks? Any questions? If you have any questions, please jot them down in the chat section so that I can address them. So any questions?
Company, happy place.
I need to go through the annotated present to provide the answer, because costing system, I don't think, costing system is not actually questions pertaining to the type of costing system will not appear within your MCS exam. It appears in the OCS exam, because then within the OCS present, they'll give you information pertaining to the type of budgets within the company. And on top of that, the costing system, be it marginal costing or absorption costing or activity-based costing or whatever. Okay, so that is not, you are playing the role of a finance manager. As a finance manager, you are not involved with the day-to-day running of the company. Costing has something to do with the day-to-day operations, but you are at the tactical level, the middle level of the organization. So as a finance manager, you won't have to rub shoulders with guys who are involved with costing. So that is actually not relevant to the syllabus. Any other questions?
Would the mock be available? The free mock you said, would that be?
Please jot them as part of the chat section. So I'm going to just talk about what we are offering. So we are offering two main packages, the essential pack and the value pack. The essential pack is suitable for students who are extremely comfortable with 100% self-learning, self-study. So if you had aced your OTQ exams, or if you are coming through the CIMA general route and aced your OTQ exams, you can go for the essential pack. If you go for the essential pack, you would have access to the 4 recorded versions of the 4 webinars which we are conducting. The most important products you would gain access to are the 5 exam standard mock exams with suggested answers. The pre-scene consists of 4 main areas, and for each and every area we have conducted 4 set of videos. So if you want to really understand the nitty-gritties which are highlighted within the pre-scene, just go through our annotated pre-scene. So our annotated pre-scene is something like this. So we have made your life easier by providing information in a summarized and easily understandable manner. Okay, and as per the annotations, we highlight the probable exam scenarios which can be tested, as well as syllabus content which can be tested. So by going through the annotated pre-scene and by referring to the 4 pre-scene analysis videos, you are in a position to figure out all the relevant information, all the important information you need to remember when walking into your exam. So we have made your life easier when it comes to pre-scene analysis, and you get your hands on the annotated pre-scene which I displayed right now, and you get your hands on industry analysis slides which looks like something like this. Okay, this is based on a previous pre-scene. So the industry analysis slides will give you an indication about the real life dynamics within the industry, so that you are in a position to better understand the industry dynamics which are highlighted within the pre-scene. So you need not do your own industry analysis. Instead, what you're supposed to do is just go through the industry analysis slides, go through the annotated pre-scene, and watch the pre-scene videos. Then you would be conversant with the industry dynamics as well. Then financial analysis slides, the same thing should be said. We have kept it concise. We usually conduct horizontal analysis based on the financial statements, and a ratio analysis is conducted, and we analyze each and every ratio. And as you can see, all the information is kept simple so that you can easily understand, remember each and every point. And on top of that, based on this set of financial analysis slides, I've done a video as part of the pre-scene analysis videos. Out of the 4 videos, the last video is about I've conducted a financial analysis, and when doing that, I'm using the same set of slides. So you would know about the numbers by watching the video and going through the slides on your own. And we are also highlighting the top 10 likely issues which can be tested in your real exam, and you'd get access to a case study familiarization kit so that you can get accustomed to the technical nitty-gritties pertinent to the exam. And you'd also have access to the online discussion forum, which is the WhatsApp group which we are using at the moment. So the price of the essential pack is £99 if you are extremely comfortable with self-learning. If you think you can measure your performance on your own, if you think that you can stick to a study plan, you are disciplined enough to stick to a study plan, if you think that you have an enough level of knowledge pertaining to E2, P2 and F2 related syllabus areas, then you need not gain any tutor support. Just go for the lowest package, which is the £99 package. Then looking at the value pack, this is a package which suits students who are looking for one-to-one tutor support and mentoring. So you'd have access to all these products which we highlighted under the essential pack. On top of that, you'd have access to the online mock exam platform. So as I highlighted earlier, you can attempt all 5 mock exams under exam conditions within our mock exam platform. So you'll be getting accustomed to real life exam conditions, especially if you are coming through an exemption route. You'd find this to be extremely beneficial because you have not done a CIMA case study exam previously. And we are also offering professional marking and one-to-one tutor feedback on 3 mocks, namely mocks 3, 4, and 5. And you guys saw what type of feedback which we provide at TCS. And you'd also gain access to theory recap slides pertaining to E2, F2, and P2, so that you can easily go through these theory recap slides rather than going through your study packs. So your notes, you can easily go through these and understand only the relevant information pertaining to the management case study. So the price is £199. And this time we have introduced two other packages as well, which are known as the plus packages. So if you go for the essential plus package, you would have access to all study material provided under the essential pack, plus 6+ hours of video lectures where I'll be explaining answers pertaining to mocks 3, 4, and 5. So if you feel that without tutor support, you can significantly improve your answers, but if you ended up failing the exam last time, getting something like 60 marks or 65 or marks, 65 marks or less at the exam, it highlights that there's something to do with your knowledge pertaining to E2, P2, and F2 related areas. And on top of that, not just the theoretical knowledge, but application-wise knowledge as well. Even though you might know the theoretical content, you might lack an understanding about how to apply this knowledge in your answers. So if that is your problem, you won't get marks above 65. Okay, so if you have gotten 65 or less, then I urge you to go for this package. Why? Because I'll be explaining the answers pertaining to mocks 3, 4, and 5. So via these explanations, we are achieving 2 objectives. Objective number 1 is covering theoretical content pertaining to E2, F2, and P2, and we are covering application as well. Okay, so after watching these 3 videos, just like I explained the answer in today's webinar, I'm explaining the 3 mocks 3, 4, and 5, so you'd understand the theoretical content as well as application. So that's the guidance on decrypting mocks and suggested answers which we are providing. And this is recommended for students coming through the exemption route, such as the FLP or the gateway route, or students who had failed the exam previously. The price is going to be £175. And the value plus package is the ultimate solution, where you'd gain access to all the study material, the one-to-one tutor feedback. You can attempt all your 5 mock exams under exam conditions within our exam platform. On top of that, you'd gain access to 6+ hours of video lectures where I'll be explaining mocks 3, 4, and 5, which will act as a guidance on decrypting mocks and suggested answers. And once you have done all these things, once you have stuck to our study plan, gone through all the material, attempted all 5 mock exams under exam conditions, and gotten feedback for 3 mocks 3, 4, and 5, and watched all these videos, then you can't fail the exam. Okay, so that's the pass guarantee which we are providing under this package, and the price of it is £275. And remember, all these 4 packages comes with a deadline where the packages will be available until the 28th of February 2023. So even if you're planning on doing your exam in February, not in November, but in February, you can still invest on these products and start preparing now itself, especially if you do not feel, if you failed last time, and if you do not feel confident as to whether you have enough time to prepare yourself again. Since this is a new pre-scene, you have to go through the pre-scene information again, go through videos again. So if you feel that you don't have enough time, you can invest on these products right now itself, and end up facing the exam in Feb. So you'd have something like 4 to 5 months at your disposal. You can slowly prepare yourself. Okay. So if you had aced your OTQ exams, go for the essential pack. If you feel that you need some type of tutor support, go for the value pack. And if you had failed or come through the exemption routes, go for either of the essential plus or the value plus packages. Okay. And please visit our website and simply click on this button to join our MCS WhatsApp group, and you can go through the FAQs as well. And there's one more webinar remaining, so if you feel that you can recommend these webinars to a friend, ask them to click on this button, then they can register for the webinar. All right, a question had come through: is this workshop uploaded into the website? Yes, the recorded version of this webinar will be uploaded tonight under the free content. Okay, so having said that, since you have actively taken part of this webinar, we are offering a 10% discount. So let me remind you about it as well. So we are offering a early bird discount, a 10% discount. So the discount code is MCS10, but remember that this discount expires on the 14th of October, which is the coming Friday. So you have something like 5 days to invest on your preferred MCS product. All right, any questions, folks? All right, guys, seems like there aren't any questions, so I'm going to conclude the session. Before I do that, let me talk about how you can contact us. You can contact us via our website. Simply drop us an email or WhatsApp us. You can get in touch with the tutors directly. Myself, Jared or Shah, we are always there to help you, even if you do not purchase from us. And follow us on our social media handles, and go to our website and check out our blog posts, which consists of all the technical information pertaining to the case study, CIMA case study exams. So there's a lot of articles which are going to be extremely beneficial for you, especially if you are not too conversant with CIMA exams. So this is our blog page, which is part and parcel of our website. And on top of that, we have introduced our TikTok handle as well. I have not mentioned information pertaining to that, so I suggest you guys to be part and parcel of our TikTok handle. Why? Because we will be doing short videos based on the pre-seen document. So we will be releasing 3 videos in total based on the pre-seen document. So within something like 6 or 7 minutes, the entire pre-seen is covered through our TikTok videos. The most important points are highlighted. So, remembering points is not going to be extremely hard, because in the good olden days, you had to keep memorizing them, and you had to come up with your own short notes and whatnot. We have made your life easier. Even if you do not invest on our products, simply go through the TikTok videos on a daily basis. So we'll be releasing them within the coming week. So go through these TikTok videos on a daily basis. Then constantly you are reminding yourself about the nitty-gritties or the most important factors or points highlighted in the pre-seen. Then your life becomes extremely easy at the real exam. So we are trying to provide the fullest type of support to you guys to ensure that you guys end up passing the MCS exam in your first sitting itself. Having said that, it brings us to the end of tonight's session. So thank you very much for joining in. I hope that you guys will join the webinar, which is conducted the week after next, the last and the 4th webinar. So having said that, thank you very much. Good night and take care.